So welcome, sir. I appreciate you taking the time with us today. Could you introduce yourself and what Horseback UK is?
Hello, guys and girls. My name is Jock Hutchison. I'm based in Scotland. And for the last decade, we've run a charity called Horseback UK. And the idea was a very simple one. We wanted to develop programs that helped our injured service personnel, whether they're mentally injured or physically, after the clinical care, so that they could reconnect and be part of other teams, rather than what we saw 10 years ago was a lot of guys and girls getting sent home, having gone through a medical process and becoming isolated. So that's, my name is Jock Hutchison, and I am the CEO of Horseback.
So I understand that you've been running your program for about a decade, but kind of over the last year, you've recognized that it has a lot of connection with Stoic philosophy. So could you talk about some of the traits that you found effective in your program, and then how you may have discovered that being connected with Stoicism?
Yeah, well, I think that the first thing that struck me when I came upon the Stoic philosophy is the idea of amore fati. And we were dealing with people who had come back from war with life-changing injuries. And at the beginning, 10 years ago, we were dealing with a lot of people who were amputees, either single or double or triple amps. And one of the things I learned from them very quickly was that you can't change what happens to you, but you can change what you do about it. And I was inspired to set the charity up by these young people who had lost their identity, their jobs, and their legs, but had adapted. They talked about practice, adapt, and train, and refocus, because they couldn't be part of the Royal Marine family, which I was part of, and they had to move on. And this is essentially, although we didn't know at the time, directly related to the Stoic philosophy.
So could you walk through kind of some of the traits that you identified as kind of being most effective?
I'll tell you a little story. There were three guys who were SF guys who came here right at the beginning. Between them, they had two legs. So there was a double amp, and then there was two guys with single amp, but one of them was way up on the hip. Excuse me. These guys had lain in a hospital in beds next to each other, and they'd sworn that they would climb the highest mountain in Scotland when they got out of hospital. And although they were severely injured, a year later, the three of them, with 30 other Royal Marines, many of them whom still serving, they made it up the 3,500 feet peak. I know it's not much of a mountain for you Americans, but over here is all we got. It took them 2 days to get up. And one of the guys had to crawl up. But they made it. And they got up and they came back down again. And what that story illustrated to me was that if you have the right attitude, you can do anything. And these guys had more excuse to sit around the house and do nothing. And yet all of the people that we served way back in the day have moved on and have purpose in their life, community. And they're all involved in helping other people.
Now, I know a lot of people approach Stoicism and they think of kind of the academic side of the house in terms of how you communicate, but I think you found a kind of a more effective way to work with your participants in terms of kind of a mentoring relationship. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think that, we have this principle that we all of us require community. I think we kind of forgot that over the last few decades. I think we need to be part of something. We need purpose in our lives. And what we try to do with the people that we served was to empower them, because we could see that the best people to help folks who were stuck post-injury and inspire them to see a more positive future were the people that had gone before them. And our programs, all of them have two mentors involved. There's programs of courses for 10 folk, and two of them will be mentors who've gone through the whole program and come back and helped. So to me, we learn a lot about the Stoic philosophy without knowing that we were learning it, because, we were making the most of the time that we had. We'd adapted, encouraged people to adapt to the situation they find themselves in, and, to make the most of it rather than curse the gods or anybody else about the situation they were in. And the positivity that they had, we then transferred that to a younger generation, kids that are not going to school, disadvantaged kids. And we empowered the veterans who had gone through recovery to play a role in helping kids reconnect with the education and find the confidence they needed to embrace life again.
So with the wars in primarily Afghanistan for your country dwindling down and the severity of physical injuries being reduced, you've adapted and shifted your program more towards the psychological side of the treating soldiers.
Yeah, well, we, obviously it was, there was 2 wars on when we set up a decade ago, and Afghanistan was particularly difficult, as I'm sure many of your people will know. But the initial injuries we were dealing with were almost, I think it was about 85% physical, whereas now it's about 90% mental injury. And to be honest, we don't distinguish the two. If you're injured, and you need to go through a recovery process, and you need other people, and you need to refocus. Obviously, with mental illness, the nature of the beast can steal hope from people, and it can steal futures from them. And the idea is to get people to connect with each other, because once you've shared a problem, it really is halved. And we use the campfire talks, and people open up and tell others how they feel, and they discover that they're, everybody around the fire feels the same way and has been through some kind of difficulty. And we need each other when we're suffering a little bit. And, we need to be stoic, because once you get through it, you regain. And that is really the essence of it. You've got to keep going when things are bad. There isn't a choice.
I can definitely see the advantage of your program, especially, relating to animals, kind of the reclaim, I think you said empathy before, but kind of the humanity and that sense of community that you're needed, and even if it's just an animal that you're wanted to be around.
Just an animal. It's a horse. It ain't just an animal, man. I think the great thing about horses is horses are flight animals, so they have a degree of anxiety about them. And for them to really perform and feel comfortable, you've got to, as a horseman or horsewoman, take away that angst. That is really what it's about. And if they trust you, and you can take that angst from them because they're focused and trust you, they will, they'll do anything. They'll leap over canyons for you. And I think this is true of people too. We sometimes forget that leadership is a position that you have to work towards gaining trust and respect. It's not just given because, we can respect the rank, but the individual has to earn it. And the way you do is because you care. And that's at the heart of it. The reason that the whole philosophy behind what we teach is how to become a leader again. And okay, the horse is, going to be the focus, but the analogy is that you're taking control of your life because you've got the confidence to do it again. And the horse will give you that confidence because he'll ask things of you that people are not honest enough to ask of you.
Well, thank you. Do you have any kind of closing ideas? Obviously, you have dealt with a lot of veterans on the backside of injury, but do you believe that any of your kind of practices would really serve well to prevent kind of psychological injuries?
Yeah, I think just on a finishing note, it's all very well treating people once they got ill, but it's much more effective to prevent. We've been running programs for the last 3-4 years, which invite special forces people back from ops very soon after they're back from ops to come and decompress. The truth is, if you're in a war zone, your brain needs to be firing a damn sight quicker than it does in Tesco's. It takes a little while for us to adjust back to the civilian world after we've been on ops, and going through a process where you're able to talk to the team, especially this is vitally important, to be able to talk to the team that you experienced the conflict with and clear up any things that are lurking in the background is absolutely essential to be able to move forward with a healthy mind. So yeah, I think that we all need to look after a little more and understand that we're all vulnerable and we can all become ill or injured. And if we stick together and if we have a positive mindset and refocus rather than cursing the gods, then we can, the people that I know have better lives now than they would have done had they not been injured. And that might sound trite, but it's the truth. And they have that purpose, they have that sense of community, and they have that sense of empowerment. And I would encourage all communities to look upon those that have been hurt not as something that they have to do to fix, but as an asset because they have experience, wisdom that can help others. And for us here at Horseback, hence the hat, folks, by the way, I mean, you might think it's odd as Scotsman wearing a hat, but I was trying to make you all feel at home, is the fact that we need each other. So I hope that, you know, become a little more sophisticated in how we deal with each other and look to the ancients who have a great way of verbalizing, vocalizing the thoughts and the lessons that we learn here.
Well, thank you very much for the wisdom, sir, and we wish you the best of luck with your charity.
Can I just wish all of you that are here, I think this is a philosophy that's needed for the modern era, and I wish you all well. And thank you very much for inviting me along.